Aloha, I'm Dr. Sophia Renee Rodriguez, chiropractor at Aloha Sophia Wellness. On your first chiropractic visit, I'm going to start with a consultation and see what brings you to my office and assess whether I think that network spinal analysis, the approach to wellness that I practice, will help you. Once I've assessed that this can help you, we will go through a detailed history. We want to know what kinds of stresses may have affected your spine, emotionally, physically, and chemically. We believe whatever goes to the back of our mind, if we can't be fully present to an experience, goes into our spine. And by recalling the history, you start to realize how different stresses in your life might have affected the health of your spine and your nervous system. We will then do a complete exam and correlate that to what we found in your history. And you're going to end face down for your first gentle network adjustment. It's done with about that much force. That will be the peak of today. And in that visit, you'll experience more breath, more ease, more peace. In a matter of a few minutes on the table, you may have the depth of relaxation just as if you had an hour massage. At that point, I will be able to give you a report of findings, going over the health of your spine, making recommendations in how I can help you, how network spinal analysis can help you, and going through how long it should take, scheduling and finances. And at that point, you can decide whether you would like to continue with care. We look forward to seeing you on your first chiropractic visit. The purpose of today's visit is to receive information from you. I'm going to start by going through a detailed history. We want to know what kinds of stresses may have affected your spine. I do what's called network spinal analysis. It's an approach to wellness, and we place gentle contacts with about this much force along your spine, and that helps to cue your nervous system to learn new strategies for living and healing. We have 3 levels of care. In level 1, it's designed to get a healthier spine, and that's where we're going to start today. And it helps you to become more aware of your spine, helps you to become more aware of your posture, your breath, where you're holding tension, when you're holding tension, and as a result, you're more able to effectively dissipate tension on your own. And everybody can use that, anywhere from newborns all the way up to people in their 90s. I've been able to help in level 1. Once you go through level 1, should you decide to continue into level 2, intermediate care, we work with chronic patterns that can go as far back as the womb. As those patterns release, your threshold of tension in your whole system is so lowered that you're able to take on more, do more, physically, chemically, and emotionally. I like to say, eat stress for breakfast and spit it out as personal growth. Because it's not about not having stress in our lives, it's about not having that stress affect the health of our body. Once you've gone through level 1 and level 2, in level 3, called Awaken Care, it's the beginning of wellness. And that is really the peak of what we do, helping you to become more well, have more love, more opening, more ease and peace in your body and in your life. There's 2 ways that stress affects your spine. And we're going to go through your history, and we're going to ask questions about physical stresses, emotional stresses, chemical stresses that can go as far back as the womb. There's 2 ways that stress affects the spine. It can be impacts, car accidents, falls, causing a locking in the vertebrae. And that locking in the vertebrae is an evolutionary strategy that's brilliant. It helps you to check out of our body and not feel so much pain. The same strategy, chronically locked, is the problem. It sends a lack of proper information from that locking in the spine up to the brain and down to any organ of the body, causing dysfunction in the body. We're meant to have all the vertebrae in our spine moving freely through the range of motion for health in lifetime. The second way that stress affects the spine is emotional chemical stress. And the way that works is that your brain is up in your skull, your spinal cord runs in between the vertebrae and is anchored at both ends. And when you bend down, because your spinal cord's anchored at both ends, it stretches about 2 to 3 inches. And when you stand up, it goes to its original shape. Under stress, let's say you're held at gunpoint, okay, extreme example, spinal cord elongates and it tells the body fight or flight. I gotta fight, run, or I'm gonna be dead. Muscles tighten up, we breathe harder, head goes forward, the blood goes to the extremities, your pupils dilate, your sensory perception is heightened because you got 20 minutes, you gotta fight, run, or you're gonna be dead. Then the spinal cord should relax and we should go as if in life, as if nothing happened. But somehow, some way with human beings, we can remain in this fight or flight physiology and build tension as far back as the womb. So with network, we make very gentle forces at either end of the spine to release that core tension so that the whole body will function in the way that it should. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through your history, and then I'm going to take your history and we're going to correlate that to your exam. For example, if we see a shoulder high, that's an example of the locking of the vertebrae. We see the head forward, that's an example of that chronic pulling and tension on the spinal cord. So let's go ahead and do your exam. Okay, now we're going to start with your spinal exam. What I'd like you to do is close your eyes, march in place, and look straight ahead. The first thing I see is that your head is tilted to the left, rotated to the right, and your right shoulder is high, okay? Now that shoulder being high and the tilt of your head is an example of locking of the vertebrae. So that's an example of an impact that your body didn't recover from, okay? And then we also see a left hip high. Let's have you face this way. Okay, now here's your shoulder, and here's your ear. And there's actually about 4 inches forward, okay? With every inch forward of the head, you add 20 pounds to the weight of your head with gravity. And so where you're carrying that stress is right here in your mid-back. And that's where you mentioned you had pain chronically, okay? So with every inch, you add 20 pounds to your approximately 20-pound head. So it's like carrying 100 pounds of weight or a 100-pound bowling ball with this one vertebrae all the time. Your head is meant to be right back here over your shoulders and balanced and be that weight being carried in the pelvis where you can carry the weight of the head more effectively. Now with that head being forward, that's indicative of chronic spinal cord tension because otherwise the head would be right over the shoulders, but your body went into that fight or flight and stayed stuck like that. Now remember we talked about brain up in the skull, spinal cord runs in between the vertebrae, and then the nerves come all the way down and we feel the tension in the spinal cord, kind of like a marionette puppet string. If you elongate the spinal cord, we're going to feel it down here at the Achilles tendon in this direction. If we torque it, we're going to feel it in this direction, 0 being none and 5 being the worst. Now what's significant is you have a left short leg of about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, okay? 90% of the brain's energy goes to keeping you walking straight. So if you're always walking on that short leg, the brain's energy's got to go to focus to keeping you just walking and balancing. And then the 10% that runs your digestion and all the functioning of the organs, that energy is taken away from, and we start to see the body in that chronic fight or flight, difficulty sleeping at night or getting to sleep, digestive problems, and a overall dysfunctioning starting to happen in the body. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do your first gentle network adjustment. We're going to be doing gentle forces up at the neck and down at the sacrum. You may notice your body wanting to stretch, move, wiggle. That is the somatopsychic wave we talked about, or the tsunami-like wave that moves through the spine that helps you to dissipate chronic tension patterns that go as far back as the womb. Or you might notice the opening of the breath, which is called the somatorespiratory wave, and our goal is to get the breath from the tip of the coccyx all the way to occiput, C to shining C breath. And as the breath gets through the spine, it rocks the vertebrae through their range of motion, sending volleys of new information up to the brain, helping you to find the blockages in your spine. And as you get the breath through there, also release those blockages until we see a breath that goes from the tip of the coccyx to occiput, C to shining C, and we see this vertebrae or the occiput, the skull bone, rock through its range of motion. And as that wave hits the skull, it reverberates peace and ease and love and peace through the whole system. So you learn anywhere, anytime to take that nice deep breath and be able to release tension. And that's how gentle the forces are. And notice that the breath is already starting to open up. Great. Now notice that, could you feel that when you breathe that this occiput area rocked? That's the goal, so that we can get a full breath through the spine. And as that breath moves through, the vertebrae rock through their range of motion. You can find where you're holding tension, and then again, through the breath, release the tension. Now, lo and behold, just with those two contacts, the legs have evened out. And what I'd like you to do is go ahead and have a seat facing the same direction. Okay, and what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes and see what you notice. Okay, and what do you notice?
I feel like my head is further back.
Absolutely. Remember we talked about your head being like 2-3 inches forward. Now you're more like 1/8 of an inch forward. And remember we talked about that flattening of this curve? Can you feel how that's come back in? And now the weight bearing is down at the sacrum where it should be. Okay, great, beautiful.